All right. Hi, everybody. Super hyped about this today. Today, I am joined by Phil Sempier, as
Hi.
opposed to the way I always pronounce his head in my mind, which was something wildly different. And Phil is from CrossFit Flemington, as you can see by that fabulous beanie,
Yes.
which I'm sure you can also purchase.
Branding.
Should you be so inclined. So Phil is... First, a super cool guy. I think of course, he's a super cool guy. We originally met with your then fiance,
Yes.
now wife, contacted me, and you guys had such a cool wedding. It was in the middle of the week in a brewery
On a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday night.
night.
And it was awesome. It was a really great time. You were really great people, and when I photographed your wedding, in addition to you guys just being cool people, I just noticed, obviously due to the nature of your business, a lot of times clients will become friends, and you had so many client/friends at your wedding. And as a person who's interested in health and staying healthy, like especially as you grow older, I was as I continued on in my non-professional jiu-jitsu career, I was getting injured, and I'm like, I need to do something. I need to do some sort of cross training. I can't sit here and get arm-barred by 20-year-old men every single day and not expect to not get injured.
Right.
So when I was looking for other places to start training, for anybody who's not local who listens to the podcast, we're in Central Jersey, and say what you will about the Jersey Shore, there is something about New Jersey.
It's more to New Jersey than the Jersey Shore.
But people like being in shape. Like there are a lot of gyms, especially in this area.
We're in Hunterdon County, and Hunterdon County has been voted for pretty consistently one of the healthiest county in New Jersey.
I saw that. Yeah, it's interesting. My stepdaughter, I have a stepdaughter. She's grown. She's from Bakersfield, California, which is like not sunny Los Angeles. No. It's something wildly different. And
the Valley. Yeah,
it's like a different type of atmosphere. And that was one of the things like out here, almost everybody at some point in their life has belonged to a gym, works out, cares about what they eat. And she was like flabbergasted by this. Like it's not a thing they have out there.
Right.
And the fact that...
Which you'd think it would be in sunny California.
Not where they are.
Not where they are.
and you have managed to create... And manage and grow a business that's thriving. It's thriving in an area that, from an outsider's point of view, seems super saturated. Yes. Like literally, you could even put in CrossFit, and just in this area, you'll see other CrossFits. And when I was looking around, sorry,
I'm sorry, and this is my 13th year as a CrossFit affiliate. So not only did I start the affiliate before anybody knew what CrossFit was. I also had to deal with competitors coming to the area as well.
So would you say you were one of the first in this area?
We were the first in this
Really?
area.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Now, how did you're clearly in shape, and it's not like you're some 20-year-old guy where it's easy for you to be in shape.
Wish I was.
You wish. So how did you find your way now as a grown man with an established business? How did you go from like somebody in high school, if you went to college or didn't go to college?
Right. So initially it was a very traditional trajectory for most high school students. Played a little sports, went to college.
Where'd you go?
A variety of places.
A rainbow of colleges.
I started at a county college of Mars.
Okay.
And went to Ryder College and had a...
So you're from up there?
Yes. Grew up in Chatham Township and went to county college because I didn't want to waste my father's money. Because I'm very, very, very lucky that my parents were... had the ability to pay for to help and pay for college. However, went to Ryder College, now Ryder University, and basically had a 2-year party And
what? You partied in college?
Yeah.
Stop.
No way. Really, I got
That
involved
doesn't
in the
happen.
Greek life, and not something
Aw,
that
Phil was a frat boy. How cute.
I'm not proud of that. not proud of that. But after that, took a year off. My father was basically like, well, you're going to finish. Now you have to figure out how to pay for it yourself.
Right.
And started working in corporate America and went to Rutgers Newark and, still stayed on that very traditional trajectory.
Okay. What type of corporate job did you have? Just
I worked in finance.
Okay. Just like super like white collar going,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah.
Right. Exactly. Finance and cash management.
Ooh.
Super interesting.
Smarty pants.
Super interesting. No, it's not at all. Not interesting at all. But working for a variety of banks and then customers of those banks, and getting compensated very well, but it was not satisfying in any way, shape, or form.
Just so slowly dying every single day.
Losing my life to fluorescent lighting and. The one thing that I always had in the back of my mind, or rather always did, was go to the gym.
Okay.
As soon as I left work, straight to the gym.
Okay.
And the journey really started with my own personal knowledge. So I wanted the best out of my workouts. So I read. I read as much information as I could.
So you are a smarty pants.
And
now, did you read, like, I remember in the 80s and the 90s, like, Weider Fitness, like, did you read?
Right, yeah, but subscribe to, like, Muscle and Fitness magazine.
I had, like, ladies' Muscle and Fitness, and I would read it.
And, like, oh, if I just did this workout that's in this magazine, I'll look like that guy who's doing tons of steroids.
Right,
but
all I need to do is eat brown rice and drink lots of water.
But when you're, like, don't really know anything better, then you just work and work and work and work. And at that point, it's kind of like work out to look good, so you like attract
the
ladies. But as I got older, that purpose of working out became different. Then became to be healthy, and I gained a knowledge base that, like, my friends started asking me advice, and then their friends started asking me advice.
Really?
So I started doing personal training kind of as a side gig while I was working. And then I got to a point where, I'm trying to think when it was, probably early 2000s. For Christmas, my father gave my sister and I a copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure none of my other sisters read it. But... I did. So I read it, and it really resonated with me. I'm like, you know what? What I am doing is not good. It's not fulfilling. At the time, I was working for a company that was privately held, and it was very clear that if you were not married into that, did not marry into that family, or born into that family, whatever rung they hired you at, that's where you're going to stay.
Right.
And I was literally working to keep other people wealthy.
Yes. Which is probably most jobs.
But, so this was 2004.
Okay.
So my girlfriend at the time, we decided we were going to open a business. So we looked at a bunch of different franchises. The one that we settled on was similar to Curves.
Okay.
If you remember Curves?
Yeah.
But this was a copycat.
Okay.
Of Curves, using better equipment than what it was in essence a better idea than Curves.
So for anybody, a lot of people are younger. Curves was geared towards women.
Yes,
and it was like
only.
No judgment, because in the early, now everybody's into fitness, but and like men and women, everybody's the same. But it like wasn't like that.
Yeah,
so Curves was a like judgment free, geared towards women fitness center.
And the franchise that we settled on was called Contras Express, and the same exact thing.
Even like down to contours and not curves.
And not the right fit. Not the right fit. But it started the direction. We ended up having to becoming part of a class action suit against the franchisor.
Wow.
And because the information that they give you is supposed to be pretty accurate, and it's completely fraudulent.
Really?
But that genre of the business was going to live and die with the popularity of curves, and which it did.
Yeah, because I don't see anything like that anymore.
And became very evident fairly quickly that that's what was going to happen. So what I did was I morphed that business into a personal training business.
So like you didn't give up. You didn't have like a defeatist attitude.
No, just my attitude towards this is now, I like to say, my third business, is failure is not an option. It is never an option. There is no plan B.
Right.
And if you go into something with that attitude, then it's a different thing. Like when starting the businesses, the break-even point is covering the expenses for the business as well as my personal expenses.
Okay.
So, for example, like in opening Contours and then starting Fitness for One, which was my personal training business, my ex-wife now, girlfriend, then wife, now ex-wife. Unfortunately, she's my ex-wife. The life changed. So in that span, we put our personal expenses as part of our break-even point.
Right.
So that we knew that the business had to cover all of this, not just itself.
And that's probably a big difference, because I think a lot of people, myself included, go into it. The break-even point is when the business pays for itself, and you're like, no, this isn't a hobby.
No,
this is a career.
Right. So as Contours Express started to subside, the personal training business was taking off.
Okay. And now were some of these people that you knew outside of it, or was it a lot of like connections that you made?
No, it was all through the majority of my clients at the time I got through advertising.
Really?
So at the time, the Hunterdon County Democrat had a weekly publication, which I think we still get.
It's still out there.
It's I forget what it's called.
I think it's still called the Hunterdon County Democrat.
No, what we get every week in the driveway.
It's not called the Democrat?
It's produced by the Democrat,
but it's called something else.
It's called something else. Anyway, it was being mailed. So it was being mailed to everyone, so everybody would get it in their hand, and it's big. It's an oversized magazine,
right?
But still a paper. So we would advertise in there, and that was hugely successful until they switched from mailing it to throwing it in people's driveways.
Oh, yes, because as long as we've lived out here, it's just always been a thing, and that's why I was like interested in what you had to say, because my husband and I pick it up and toss it in the trash.
Yeah, exactly, and the response from our ads went from really good to like nothing.
Really?
Because of that. Because your first instinct is to pick that up out of the driveway, throw it in the trash.
Yes.
Where having something in your hand,
you're like, oh, okay, what is this?
I'll just flip through this.
Yeah.
And you can see like the thickness of the publication went from really substantial to like nothing.
Right.
So that was Fitness for One. And that did very well. I had about 30 clients. I hired another trainer to work for me. And then the housing market crashed.
Now, this was the one in like the 2000s, right?
Yes.
This is the one when my husband and I bought our house when the market first started to come back down.
Right.
So when we bought our first home, the prices first started dropping. So we're like, oh my gosh, we can't believe we're going to get our house for this price. We just didn't know it was going to keep dropping for like the next 7 years.
Right.
Whoopsies.
So I had 30 clients were basically paying me a car payment a month. In the way that I structured their they weren't really memberships, but their sessions.
Right. So doing well for yourself.
Yes, but because of that economic sensitivity, I was very wary that like any one of them could be like, oh, my husband just got laid off, or I just got laid off, or we're gonna move, or so I was looking for the best workouts for my clients. And that's also around the time the movie 300 came out.
Okay.
On DVD. So in the DVD package, they had the movie and this extra disc that had how the stunt personnel and the actors trained in order to get the way that they looked.
Did it really? Because
yes.
I think probably like I watch it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, so awesome! Like, I'm not a boy, so I don't want to look like a boy, but like even I was like, holy crap.
Right. So in that, there's a guy. His name's Mark Twight. He owns a facility called Jim Jones. It's GYM Jones.
Okay.
Which a play on Jim Jones,
that's the Kool-Aid guy.
Yes, the Kool-Aid guy.
Jim Jones had a cult. He told his cult followers, drink the Kool-Aid, and it doesn't matter. And then everybody died. Yeah, and everybody died. So when if you're younger and you hear people say, I drank the Kool-Aid, it's a throwback to cult people killing each other. How fun.
So so in the interview with Mark Twight, he was talking like, we didn't do what we usually do with the actors. We put them through more of a CrossFit workout. I'm like,
really?
Oh, what's CrossFit?
Yeah.
So I looked up CrossFit, found an affiliate fairly close by, tried it myself, drank the Kool-Aid, and then was just hooked immediately. And from that point on, that's now 2008, 2009.
Okay.
It was like a light bulb went off. It was not only for my personal workouts. That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
But also for my clients.
So at this point in time, you would say you'd probably been working out or in fitness like for how long before you came across CrossFit?
So if we go from
probably like high school, like as a
20 years.
And then you saw this and you're like,
right.
There's something here.
Yeah. And you could see.
That's how I felt about it.
Right. And you could see even at that point in time, because nobody knew what CrossFit was in 2009.
Yeah, it was new.
Because I did my initial certification for CrossFit in October of 2009.
Okay.
Nobody knew what CrossFit was, but I could see at that point, like, this is going somewhere. Because every class was selling out.
Really?
At that time, and people that were at least in the class that I was in, they were other fitness professionals.
Okay.
Like, they weren't just, I've been going to this box for however long, and like, let me
box is a name for a CrossFit gym.
Yes. Let me just go get my L1. It was people that kind of saw the same thing that I did. That you could kind of see down around the curve. Where this was going to go, and which was really cool. So I on-ramped all my clients without really telling them what I did,
okay.
what my intentions were. Lost half of them.
Really? Is it because
and you could really kind of tell who I was going to lose and who I wasn't going to lose, because they were the ones that. They would go out to coffee with their friends after their session, and they just tell like, I have a personal trainer that comes to my house, and didn't really work hard to begin with, as hard as I would push them. They had.
You mean like me when I grab a kettlebell and you're like, yeah, I'm getting you one twice the size. I mean, that sort of thing.
It is 5:30. It is 5:30 in the morning, so it's a little early. Which I have to hand it to all of my members who come to the 5:30 a.m. class. I personally cannot work that hard that early, moving weight around that early in the morning.
So you just make us do it.
Yes, so I make you do it. Maybe I could do like cardio stuff, but I couldn't. I just wouldn't feel right afterwards.
No, but I've noticed because I've gone to gyms my entire life,
right?
And there's definitely the difference. You can tell. Now, granted, I'm a woman, and I would always be just due to the nature of my business. I would be in the gym at a time you'd see a lot of other women who are home taking care of their kids,
right.
And you can see the difference between people who truly want to be in good shape and then the people who are kind of like, oh yeah, I don't go out for coffee in the morning, like I train, which is honorable. It's honorable.
Right.
If you could go shopping or go do something good for yourself, go do something good for yourself. But you're right, there definitely is a difference.
Yes. And not to disparage people like that, because they're still doing something.
Right. It's just a different sort of thing.
It's just a different thing.
Right.
And that's fine. But I could have put money on who was going to be like, this is way too hard, and other people are like, give me more.
Right.
So
me, my first day I got beat out by a pregnant lady, and I'm like, now I need to come back for the rest of my life.
Oh, right, that's right.
Yes, Paige. Or not Paige. I'm sorry, that's
Erin.
your daughter, Erin. Yeah.
So started CrossFit in my personal training studio.
Okay.
Not the right place for it. The
Was it
studio
not
too
big
small.
enough?
It wasn't big enough. The ceilings weren't high enough. It was great for personal training, but not for CrossFit.
Okay. Because your place you have now is huge.
It's huge. And it just kind of like fell in my lap.
Really?
The person who was initially renting that space came to me like, would you be interested in subletting? I'm like, well, let me take a look at it. And when I got there, you could see that like I could have people run around the building. As it turned out, we measured it. It's about almost exactly 200 meters around the building. And at 30-foot ceilings, I think we're up now to 6,000 square feet. But at the time I was using like a quarter of that.
Okay.
And it was perfect. Everybody could park off site. Place was closed. Everybody around us was closed on the weekend, so we're on a cul-de-sac.
Okay,
it's
right. So you have the space.
Right. So it worked out really well. And then so I'm like, all right, well, and I moved there, and we moved there in September 2010, and been there ever since.
Oh, so you've been there a while.
I've been there for 12 years.
So you
almost 13 years.
So you were always interested in being in good shape, and you tried the corporate path, and you saw that it was slowly killing you.
Yes.
And you're like, why not do it? Why not do it? Why not do what I'm good at?
So I mentioned the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that is it kind of tells the story of how the main character, even though it's supposed to be a true story, he has like two dads. He has like his friend's dad and like his own dad. His own dad is kind of like that, like, get a good job,
right?
Money is bad. Everybody who has it is like evil, and then he has his friend's dad who's like his rich dad, and he's like, no, you do this,
right?
Own your own business. Don't be on the ladder, own the ladder,
right?
So that really resonated in that, my great grandfather came from Scotland, started a business on his own, construction business, and that really resonated in me. Like, why can't I just do it myself?
It's so funny. I see that all the time. If somebody else could do it, why can't I do it?
Right. And all my life, my father has told me, like, whatever you set your mind to, you can do.
Right.
Whatever it is, if you set your mind to it, you can do it. And that's how I approach a lot of what I do. Except bowling. My wife, Jamie, who's awesome. And
Jamie is super awesome. Hi,
yes.
Jamie. We heart you.
And so a bunch of us went out bowling, and she was so happy that I sucked at bowling. Because generally I'll try stuff and I'm like, oh, all right, and just like kind of like pick it up.
Right.
And she was so happy that I sucked at bowling.
Yeah, I am by nature a competitive person, and it's infuriating how good my husband is at so many things. It's maddening. The one thing I'm better at him at is flexibility.
Right.
And then he tries to tell me flexibility is not a thing.
Well,
you're like, he's kind of right.
It is a thing.
It is a thing. See, Bill, this is from a fitness professional. It is a thing.
Really is a thing.
Yeah, I think he just says it because I can destroy him in my flexibility.
Don't ever lose flexibility.
See that?
One of the things that I try to stress to everybody is flexibility will have the biggest impact on sports performance, than really anything else.
That's so interesting.
Because if you are flexible enough to move through the movement correctly, it makes building strength in that movement a lot easier.
I guess that makes sense, right? Because if your range of motion isn't there,
is limited, right?
So maybe that's why I suck at my shoulder works. Just don't have that same range of motion I once did. So what was it like for you when you decided to quit your day job? Like, did you get like pushback?
Scary.
Yeah.
It was very scary. I'm like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm doing that.
Now,
I'm doing this.
Were you already out? Like, did you have your own place and your own bills?
Yeah.
Or so you were, because that's the one thing that
I mean, by that time, my ex and I were living together, so it helped, but like it still needed the additional.
Well, that's the one thing that I found that's been so interesting. Like, again, I know it's a new day and age and blah, 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 blah. But, like, when I speak to men who have gone out on their own and women who have gone out on their own, again, this isn't saying anything at all. Raw women, I'm a woman. But, like, men seem to have, like, that extra level of, like, I need to make this work. Because a woman... whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, if your husband or your fiance help pays the bills, but men seem to like internalize, like, I need to be the provider. I need to make it work.
It's that provider drive,
right?
We're programmed to provide for,
right?
And that's what made going out on my own so scary. It's
right.
Like, we didn't have kids at the time, and we were hadn't gotten married yet, and so it wasn't so scary, but becoming an entrepreneur, you should be signing up for everything that comes along with it. Yes, there's going to be times that there's not a lot of money.
Right.
Yes, you're going to have to like eat the same thing, eat the same crappy food for a while. But for example, there was an affiliate, a CrossFit affiliate district meeting. So CrossFit's like divided up into different regions, and then each region is divided up into different districts.
Okay.
So we had a district meeting in May, and there were so many affiliates that were talking about, well, I need to find like this whole like work-life balance bullshit, and I'm like, I can't swear, right?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
And I'm like, you don't understand what it is to be an entrepreneur. Yes, you want to have a family life, I get it, but you also, when I'm not at the box, I'm still at the box.
Right.
If I'm not physically there, my head is still there.
Right.
And yeah, I joke about how like I can't go on vacation for more than like 3 days or I start to twitch. But it's like I can't go for very long before I start thinking about exactly what's going on at the box. Is everybody okay? Has any is everything getting put away correctly? Is everything and all the little like things that go along with it. So I'm constantly working.
Right, because if you don't do it, it all falls on you. Like it falls on you.
And even if I had 20 employees, I would still feel the same way.
Right.
I would still feel like everything is ultimately the buck stops here.
Exactly. But don't you find, like, I know, so you work a lot, right? Like there's that funny joke, like entrepreneurs are the only people who will work 80 hours a week so that they don't have to work 40 hours a week. But there's something genuinely fulfilling about creating something.
Right. And that's what I was just going to say. It's like, I work more now than, or even when I started the original business, I worked more than I had ever worked, working in a corporate job.
Right.
But it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
Yes, it's work, but it's not really work, because if I didn't love it, then it would be work.
Right. And even when
I
you
shouldn't
have,
be doing it.
And even when you have like those hard days, because like no matter how much you love your job, even when it's your own job, like some days are hard, but it's like you can always, like sometimes like I feel like everybody can feel down. Like sometimes you're like, oh my gosh.
Right.
But it's like you take a step back and you look at your life and you're like, I'm living the dream. Right. Like I did it. I won.
Yeah, that's like one of the things that we did coming out of COVID. Because I coach 90% of the classes on a daily basis. But what was killing me prior to COVID was we had all the classes back to back. Like one would just go right into the next one.
Okay.
So when we came back into the box, and we didn't know that like COVID didn't really spread on surfaces, and we shortened the classes to a half an hour and put to 45 minutes, but a half hour between every class.
Right.
When everybody was like, okay, let's start doing let's start doing the classes the way we used to, make them an hour, strength, the WOD, stretching, warm up beforehand.
WOD is workout of the day.
Oh yes, there is a whole bunch of terminology
which I know almost none of. I'll be honest. I've been going to CrossFit since summer, and there
should be like an English to CrossFit dictionary, because it's almost like another language. We kept a half hour, 15 minutes between every class, and that is just enough time for me to be kind of like recenter myself,
right,
and catch my breath and be like, all right, next class.
Because that's one of the things, right? Like, I know, granted, we're not doing the same type of thing for work, but like for wedding photography, nobody wants a grumpy photographer, right? Like, it doesn't matter what's going on in my personal life. When I'm at work, like, I'm there for people doing something, and while just like coaching, you're not physically lifting the weight. When I'm doing photography, I'm not doing anything physically demanding, but like mentally, you're there for your clients 100%, and you're 100% like rooting for them and cheering them on. And I imagine it's the same thing. Like, you have to. Nobody wants to go to CrossFit in the morning when it's already like super early, and then have a coach who's like, "Yeah, I don't really care. I'm tired too." Like, you have to like be there,
right? There always has to be a presence,
right?
And yeah, there's days that I don't want to get out of bed.
And because you're a person,
right,
who lives.
I'm like, but if I don't go, I can't not go.
Right, you can't not go. You have to.
If I had the option, I would feel bad. I would feel like I'm not providing for my members,
right?
Athletes, because I do love being there on a daily basis. I love seeing everybody.
It's a great environment.
Work hard, and advance. I love when we get new members. Like, I've had a few people just finish on-ramp, and on-ramp
is when you first start joining, and you learn the exercises and the movements.
Right. Like you went through on-ramp.
Yes.
And I love when they like start getting it, and they start seeing like, this is really hard. And it's always really like the first 3 months, the hardest 3 months of CrossFit. Every workout, it seems like every workout that you're doing is the hardest one you've ever done.
Yes. I didn't think I'd ever be able to get through a workout ever. And the first time I got through a workout, I actually took a selfie. I'm like, I finished it. I can't believe it.
But I love as I see everybody's performance increase more and every day.
Right.
And the one thing I try to get through to everybody is that, it's going to suck. And it's supposed to suck. Exercise is not supposed to be easy.
Right.
Ever. If exercise is easy, it's not doing anything for you. Like walking. Walking is just locomotion. It's the way for you to get from point A to point B. It's not exercise.
Right. People love being comfortable so much.
And, that one of the things that I've told a few people is that I've been working in the fitness industry for 20 plus years, and I am always amazed how much what's the word I'm looking for? How much people will go out of their way to avoid being uncomfortable for an hour.
Right, it's not that long, and it goes by like relatively quickly.
It's amazing. It's like,
my sister. I'm very, very fortunate. I'm like a tiny person, right? Even if I gained 100, I gained 100 pounds. Even if I gained weight, I probably would always say a tiny person. So this isn't to say anything like that. And my sister's also a tiny person, but as you get older, it's harder to not like get injured and get sore. So while I don't have a traditional job, we've chosen to homeschool 2 of our kids. Sure. Well, one's a private online school, and the other one, like I physically teach. So the only way, and my sister's like, I don't know how you do that. Like, how do you have the time to like run a business, do the jujitsu, the other thing that I talked to you about with our town, that thing, and then also manage to work out. And I'm like, well, I go at 5:30 in the morning. And she's like, well, that's when I like to wake up and watch Parks and Rec. And I'm like,
no,
you
it's like what's most important? What's more
right.
important?
She wakes up early to watch TV. I'm like, well, why don't you just wake up early and go work out? And she's like, oh, I just don't feel like it.
Yeah, and
sorry for ratting you out, Chrissy.
It's not an excuse.
Nobody cares. Work harder.
Yeah. So like our new slogan around the box is the flag that drapes my desk. Nobody cares. Work harder. And it's a perfect metaphor for a lot of things.
For life, really.
For nobody cares. Work harder. I don't feel like working out. Well, the days that you don't feel like working out, those are the days you should go.
Right.
Because I've listened to, you know who Jocko Willink is?
Yes.
So he was on Huberman Lab a couple podcasts ago, and he was talking about like motivation. Motivation will get you in the door. It'll get you in the door in January, but it's gonna go away. Motivation will go away. And his point was that when that happens, those are the days you go. Mm-hmm. To where the way I interpreted it is that it becomes an obligation. It becomes an obligation to yourself. It becomes an obligation to your health. It becomes an obligation to the other people in your life that depend on you being healthy. Because if somebody gets sick, then that's when they start to wish that they had done more about their health.
Right.
And maybe it's the flu, maybe it's something worse. But at some point, you have to get into your head that this is an obligation to myself, to my family, to everything else that surrounds me.
And it's so available. Like even so, let's just say you're a person and you happen to be in a time in your life where you don't want to or you can't afford a gym membership, right? You can still pick up milk jugs, right? Like there's still during COVID, the first couple months of COVID, when nobody knew anything about COVID and people were still showering, like before I entered their house, I have a field by my house. I mapped it out and I figured out what was 3 miles, and I would go run around the field for 3 miles because I have the outside. Like nobody can take the outside away from me. Right.
So CrossFit is defined as constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity across broad, time, and modal domains.
Ooh, what's a modal domain? I don't even know what that means.
So modal domain is, so there are 10 domains of fitness.
Oh. So it's a deca value.
Well, yeah. Cardiovascular, respiratory endurance, stamina, strength, flexibility, power, speed, coordination, agility, balance, and accuracy.
Ooh, my balance is very good. You might not know this about me, but if you were to try to take me down by grabbing a leg, it's not going to happen. I can balance on the other leg forever.
Okay.
So if you ever decide to throw in a takedown in class,
we'll have to see how well you can do with. See if you can perform any pistols.
Yeah, if I'm doing it while holding kettlebells or something, it might be a different story.
So all of CrossFit's workouts hit all 10 of those domains. Some might be stressed more than others, but those are the modal domains.
Yes.
Time is, like today we have a 15-minute AMRAP.
Can you describe what an AMRAP is for our viewers and myself? Because I've still never 100% knew what it meant, and sometimes I just feel stupid asking questions.
It depends on the rules, but generally AMRAP is an acronym for as many reps or rounds as possible.
Okay, I knew I'm supposed to do a lot in this amount of time, but I had no idea what it stood for.
For example, today's workout of the day is a 15-minute AMRAP of 15 deadlift from anywhere from 95 to 135 pounds, 10 box jumps, and 5 handstand push-ups.
Ugh, handstand push-ups.
Or HSPU. And you just keep revolving through those rounds, just keep trying to do as many of those rounds as possible. Now, the score, it can be scored on as many rounds as you can get through, plus reps, or just total reps.
Right. But it's nice because you can constantly challenge yourself. Like, I noticed when I first started, like, I have my shoulders. That's like a goal I had for myself, shoulders. And when I first started coming, handstand push-ups was like, this is impossible. I just can't do it. And then the last time, granted, one time you had to maybe give my calves a little help. And they weren't beautiful handstand push-ups, but I was able to do some. And it was one of those things where when I started, I'm like, this is impossible. My body just can't do this. In a short period of time, because I started over the summer, in a very short period of time, to like, now how can I make my technique look better? Or how can I get more weight on it? And it's amazing how when you start something, you're like, even silly things. Like there's been time in class where we're just doing squats and you're just tired, right? You're just tired. And you're like, you find yourself maybe breathing a little bit longer than you should in between reps. And you'll just be like, keep going. And just something silly like somebody telling you, keep going. And you're like, yes, I can.
Right. Because the mind will run out of energy.
Right.
Long before the body runs out of energy.
And it's amazing how you can do it.
Yes.
You just have to do it.
You just have to do it. Nobody cares, work harder.
Right. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And that's one of the other things about CrossFit is in order to get the most out of it, you have to get out of your head. I've seen more so in members that come in the evening after work, which is not a shocker. Like they'll come in a bad mood.
Right.
Work didn't go well, or like something's going on, and by the time they leave, they're smiling again.
Yes, I've noticed that with exercise in general. I do jujitsu at night, and I'll go into jujitsu just with the baggage of the day.
Right.
And by the time, even CrossFit in the morning, sometimes you just don't want to do it. Like, it's dark out, it's cold out. I don't want to go. I think I told you the one day I almost turned around at the Wawa and drove home. But if you can just get through the door and start, like, the science behind it is there. Like, you feel better. Yeah. Emotionally, you feel better.
Oh, right. And because CrossFit will make you better.
It'll just make you better. Just makes you better. So just everybody sign up. It'll just make you better.
So, to quote Greg Glassman, he said he has no hope for public health.
Well, I would share his assessment on that.
And
I just saw, see?
He has all the hope for anyone and everyone who becomes a member of a CrossFit affiliate. Because I know, as well as in his quote, can make everyone that walks in my door better.
Right.
In a very short amount of time, 3, 6, 9 months, a year. In a year, if you go out that far, everyone is better. And
you have people from all walks of life. Like, you have people like that hold like professional things. Mm-hmm. That one girl, I think she does like the CrossFit Games. You have
trying to get there.
Okay, you have pregnant teachers who teach cheerleading. Yes. Like, you have people from literally all walks of life, and they're all training and getting better all the time. They're not all meatheads. They're people from all walks of life.
Meatheads don't last long.
It's too humbling.
Right. It has nothing to do with how I look in the mirror. And that's the thing about another thing about CrossFit. It is not aesthetic based.
Right.
We're not an aesthetic based gym. And that's why meatheads don't last. It is all about performance. Any aesthetic that somebody's chasing, that's their thing.
Right.
We can certainly work on diet with that person. But if you are chasing performance and eating to chase performance, any aesthetic that you might be looking for will come as a byproduct.
That was when my entire life, like I've worked out my entire life, like since I was 16 years old, and I always worked out for vanity. Like, and people, the joke, people are like, oh my gosh, you must be such a healthy person. And I'm like, no, I just want my pallbearers to love me because I'll be so late. Like, I did not care about my health. Like, it wasn't, I was very honest about it, right? And it wasn't until I started training jujitsu, and then like my mindset changed.
Right.
I wasn't working out because I wanted to be skinny. I was working out because I wanted to be strong and healthy.
Right.
And once that mindset changed, I eat more and I like physically look better than I have in my entire life
Right.
without starving myself and doing vanity exercising.
Right.
And it was just that mindset changing, and it makes it easier to work out because I'm not working out because I want to fit into a certain pair of jeans.
Right.
I'm working out because I want to be strong and healthy, and it's so much more like gratifying to work out for that.
Yes, and it frees your mind.
100%.
Like the
100%.
stranglehold that this notion of everybody has to look a certain way. And like there's this whole movement that has started recently called body positivity. However, yes, everybody should love their body, whatever shape size it might be, but you should also be as healthy as you possibly can be.
Yeah.
In whatever shape and size that should be. Body positivity doesn't mean like I'm just gonna like sit around and eat whatever the hell I want and like everybody's gonna love me.
Right.
No, that's not a thing.
Yeah, like, and your bodies are amazing. Your body can do so much if you
Right.
give it the right thing to accomplish
Exactly. Yeah, you should have a positive notion of your body and treat it as such.
Right.
Treat it as the temple that it is, not like a tent.
Right. No, mine's just going to be a 10. I don't care.
That's like, and it really is that simple.
Yes,
Problem that some people run into is that, okay, I want my cake and eat it too. It's like I want to like look this way, but I also want to eat and drink and do whatever I want on this side as well.
But you know,
there
what I
really
found?
isn't a balance.
So for example, I go to CrossFit early in the morning because that's when
Right.
it fits into my schedule. I like eating food. Everybody likes eating good food, but like it gets to a point where I'm not even like withholding something good for myself. Like, oh, I would eat
Right.
this, but I won't fit in these pants. I'm like, if I eat this now, I'm going to feel like crap tomorrow morning. My workout's not going to be as pleasurable. So like you find yourself not wanting those things, not because I just want to be skinny and I can't be skinny. You find yourself thinking like, I want to give myself food that's going to fuel my body.
Right. And that's like switching that mindset from just indulging in whatever you want to thinking about every single whatever and how it's going to affect your performance.
Right.
So that's eating to perform as opposed to eating to eat.
And it doesn't feel like you're stopping yourself. It doesn't feel like you're denying yourself something when you flip that. You're like, yeah, I could have that, but it's not worth it. Like I'd rather feel great tomorrow in my workout.
Right. And a very good analogy for that is, and I've seen this happen, is like I've had members who, they kind of like binge drink wine all weekend. And then like they'll come in on a Monday and their workouts are crap.
Right.
They're absolute crap. And then one Monday they come in and they're like on fire and their workouts are awesome. And I'll be like, hey, and they might say something to me or I'll say something to them and they'll be like, what did you do differently over the weekend? It's like, well, I didn't drink any. And then the light bulb goes off. And that kind of like starts that ball rolling that, okay, if I don't binge drink wine, then I feel better. And
amazing what happens when you don't poison yourself.
Crap. And the same thing with diet. There's, we have members that are great Monday through Friday, and then they go off the rails all weekend.
Right.
And it's like, then Monday rolls around, and it's like
you're like, oh, why did I do that?
Suffering a little bit.
Why did I do that?
So
it's like food can be, I think you mentioned when I asked you to be on here that you actually, Nicole Piazza, you guys, and she talked about this, how this country has this weird view on food. Like you can get in, it could be a reward or it can be a punishment. And she's like, it's not that at all. Food can be pleasurable and enjoyable, but be fuel for your body so you can do good things.
Well, right. And it takes might take more creativity to put things together so that they taste a certain way. Or
you mean I can't just eat McDonald's all the time? Oh, come on.
don't ever do that again.
Just every single day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's all I'm eating. No. Just kidding.
No. You saw the documentary Super Size Me.
Yes.
You know what? May or may not be true.
You know what I actually saw? I watched this documentary many years ago called Fed Up. I don't know if you've ever seen
about
this.
sugar.
Yes. So Fed Up is a documentary about sugar, but it goes into a lot of the politics about how the lobbyists were... Watch it. If you have any interest at all, watch it. When I watched a documentary Fed Up, I'm a sugar fiend. I used to, when I was in college, I love sugar so much. When I would get my coffee, I would have them put in so much sugar that I would sip it up through a straw and I could crunch on the sugar. While this is how I love sugar. But when I watched this documentary, they laid it out. Obviously it has a thing, but they showed you the science, they showed you the history of it, they showed you how they were denying people information so that they could not know how bad it was for them. When I say people are like, oh, see a movie that changed your life. This movie changed my life. I paused it halfway through and I went to the grocery store and brought different food and threw things out. It was my kids hated it. I mean, they probably like it now because now, my daughter's in high school and she's fit and athletic and beautiful, and she doesn't experience the same difficulties other girls do, but they hated it at the time because I'm like, it's poison and they won't let us know how bad it is.
Right. And it is poison and it's addictive.
Super addictive.
Super addictive.
I think they said rats will choose sugar over heroin.
Yeah, I believe that is the
it's that or crack, but I think it was heroin.
I have a few members who are dabbling with intermittent fasting. So I had when they started, they were like, I'm so lightheaded and nauseous. I'm like, that is your sugar addiction.
Is that what does it?
And they're just kind of woozy and they are just craving. I'm like, that's sugar.
Yeah, it's crazy and it's in everything. It's in everything.
So, for example, one of our newer members was in today. She has an infant who has a lot of allergies, and she was showing me the hypoallergenic formula that he is still having a problem with. The first ingredient was high fructose corn syrup.
Shut up.
High fructose corn syrup, then seed oil. Some kind
of
seed oil.
I'm not familiar. I know there's a lot of stuff on it. I'm not quite as knowledgeable
seed oil
about
is the new villain.
Yeah, I saw something on it because I follow. So let me put on my tinfoil hat for a moment. As Phil knows from me personally, I love all of that stuff. So one of the things I follow started talking about it, but I'm still focusing on all my other rabbit holes to go down. So I haven't gone down the seed oil rabbit hole yet.
Yeah, but it some of it makes a lot of sense surrounding seed oils. I need to read more about exactly what is going on.
There's so much that I feel like we don't get the full story, and you don't know what you don't know. You just don't know what you don't know, but with fitness and eating right. I feel there's not an excuse. People know it.
Yes.
They know it.
They know what to. Most everybody knows what to do. Most everybody knows what they should be doing. It's their choice whether they do it or not.
It's their choice. You'll see people. How much do people spend on Starbucks a week? If you stop going to Starbucks, you could afford a CrossFit membership. It's. Oh yeah. It's the same thing. Give up your Starbucks addiction and get in shape and live a long, healthy life.
And it goes back to like you were mentioning your sister. You could do this if you change your lifestyle. Right. And that's also part of being healthy and fit is you're going to have to change your lifestyle. Suck it up.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Work harder.
But it's the truth. It's the truth. And it's not once you can, I feel once you can get past that initial, boy, this sucks. You're like, this is amazing. Why did I wait so long? Right. I wish I didn't wait so long to start CrossFit.
Right. Yeah. And that, and that's me making everybody better, 3 months out, 6 months out, 9, 12 months out. Jamie, when she first joined, she was a member. That's a whole other story, how that all came about. But
don't worry, ladies.
glad it did.
Phil's happily married. Go to his gym. His wife's there. He's not looking for wives at the gym. Not anymore, at least.
Not anymore. I wasn't then either. But
she just sauntered
now we have
in.
twins.
And now we have twins. Adorable twins.
Now I'm 53 and have 5-year-old twins, which was my life plan from the beginning.
What else were you doing with your time?
Exactly. They're awesome though. But when she first joined, she had been working with a personal trainer at Health Quest for, I think she said 3 years.
I didn't know she went to Health Quest.
Yeah,
I was at Health Quest as well.
So I forget who she was working with, but she had been working with them for 3 years, and she saw more result in 6 months at CrossFit than she did in 3 years with a personal trainer.
Same. I went to Health Quest, and I didn't have a personal trainer, but I would do, and this isn't anything against Health Quest. I have lots of friends who still go there, but I would go to the classes. I would do the weight training classes, and then they would call it HIIT classes. They're it's CrossFit-esque.
Yes.
Now
CrossFit Super Light.
Yes. Now I did, when I started taking those, I would see like more results, but now I had belonged to Health Quest from the time that my middle daughter was 2 up until fairly recently. And it's, you can't, it's different. It's just different. Like if you, Health Quest has amazing facilities. If you're very young children and you need the daycare, you'll meet people. Like a million great things about Health Quest. But if you want to get in shape, go to CrossFit.
And that's and that it kind of like comes down to different.
What are you going for?
Right. Why are you there? Why are you working out? Do you want to get better, or are you just trying to maintain what you're doing?
Exactly.
And that brings other CrossFit competitors.
So what do you think makes you stand out? Because I mean, I really did. I looked in. I had phone calls out to other people just because, like, So why did I go to CrossFit? I went because I had like very specific goals. I don't want to get injured, and I want to keep training with men half my age and twice my size. So I had like very specific goals, and like I looked around. I looked at what the other gyms were doing. I saw your members from your wedding, and it was a difference. It was a difference. I'm like, like these people, like you can see, like your members, they're physically fit. Like you could see. What do you think is like the standout?
For us?
Yeah, like why do you think yours? Because I mean, as an outsider,
because I'm really good at what I do.
because you're you. That's what it is.
So,
like when I go to your class, you seem very knowledgeable. Like I'll ask you a question.
So
you're knowledgeable.
I've been in this industry for 20 plus years. There's no certifications going to pursue a knowledge base.
Because you've even been able to help me. Like I'll have certain weird injuries from like heel hooks. Like very non-traditional style injuries, and I've been able to show you. I'm like, it's this kind of thing in my knee, and you're like, granted, this isn't what I'm like, but I think it's kind of like this. You probably did this, and you're able to, you're. Whereas I feel like somebody else would be like, you probably should just sit down and stop doing it. You're able to help me change the workout so I can continue to strengthen and heal in a safe way, which is, I think, for an athlete or anybody, you want to get stronger and just not stop.
There's no injury you can't work around.
Right. Which is huge, I think.
In order to, you shouldn't stop moving. No one should stop moving. Unless you slipped a disc, and then, or broke your leg. Even with that, I've had members who had I had one member, I don't know if you ever met Ruby, but she joined while she was healing from a broken ankle.
Okay.
With a boot on and everything.
Right.
And then, we just work around it in order to make sure that the movement patterns are on the line, along the same line as what you're trying to perform. So like if your knee's bothering you, then I'll have you squat to a depth where it's not bothering you. So like if like say you're squatting down, or if you broke your wrist and you're in a cast, well, your legs still work. And just give you other stuff to do or work around injuries in order to help strengthen them. or
because they need to get stronger.
Because they need to get stronger. For example, we had a member who blew out both of her ACLs, not at the gym.
Just doing something else.
Just doing other stuff.
She was probably also getting heel hooks.
The one was on vacation,
Ooh.
and one was when she had gotten home from a drunken night with her friends, and she was like trying to get undressed and trying to be really quiet at the same time, and like fell.
I mean, not funny, but kind of funny.
Right. And so she was going to have ACL surgery. So she planned it out like several months. I think it might have been like 6 months down the road. That was like the first time she could have it. So I'm like, all right, in that time, let's do lots of squats. It's not a lateral movement, so you don't really need your ACL in order to squat and deadlift and everything. And we got to a point where she canceled the surgery.
That's amazing. And I've seen that. So I have a friend. So that's one of the things that's so powerful to me. So I have a friend, he's
granted, like she doesn't ski, she doesn't snowboard, she doesn't play sports where she needs that lateral movement. So
right. No, but even he's called the leg locking priest because he's retired. He's a Catholic priest who also trains jiu-jitsu. And so he would do a lot of leg locks, and he was recommended to have surgery, and he didn't go to a CrossFit gym, but he out where he's at, he went and saw like somebody who was like specifically for people who are highly athletic, and this other doctor was like, don't do these exercise, strengthen yourself.
Yeah.
And I want to say 2 or 3 years later, he's fine. He never needed it. He didn't have to take time off. All he needed was somebody knowledgeable to help him work through it.
Right. Yeah, and that's what that's my job. It's my job to make everybody better. Even if they've have a slight injury or something that's nagging, in order to try and not have that become chronic. Because when something becomes chronic, then it's like then you're in it for the long haul.
Well, that's why I wish I would have come earlier. My shoulders are just, I waited way too long to pay attention to make them stronger, and it's getting better.
Right.
Like I think I told you, I finally like went balls to the wall, like really trained hard, and I went tap, but like before I started, that's it. Like my shoulder would have been screwed up forever. Right. And this time it was just like, okay, cool. Like, let's go. Like I saw it, like the proof is in the pudding. I saw it. It works.
Right. Yeah, I made you better.
You made me. Aw, Phil, you're so awesome.
But what that comes down to is community.
Yeah, everybody there is
coaching
so awesome.
And programming.
Yes.
There's a trend in the CrossFit community, CrossFit affiliates community, of affiliates buying programming.
Okay.
Which I think is such an injustice for an affiliate to buy programming, an injustice to their members. Jamie and I do our programming because we know our members best. We know our athletes best. We know where the weaknesses overlap, and we know, like how, what direction that we want to take everybody in order to make them better from day to day, week to week, month to month. And that's one of the things that we take a lot of pride in, is that we are doing our own programming. The programming is the workouts of the day.
The workouts of the day, yeah.
The strength portion as well as the workout of the day. And that is something that is unique to us. If another affiliate followed our programming, I'd be flattered. But and it might work.
I'm opening a CrossFit
might work
gym.
for their gym, but the best CrossFit boxes do their own programming. They don't generally follow another box's programming, or another athlete's programming, because there's like a lot of the, like Tia Toomey, Matt Frazier, they have a lot of their own programming that you can buy into, but that's great for Matt Frazier. He's a 5-time CrossFit Games champion. That fantastic. Like I'm 53. How's it going to help me?
You're going to go in there, you're just going to destroy him.
Right.
You're going to show up to the next one, that's it. He's out, you're in, you're the new champ. Yay, Phil.
And it's a lot of that at young coaches, young personal trainers and stuff like that are, they're enthusiastic. But if they're training somebody that is my age, they're not going to know what it's like to wake up one morning and your shoulder hurts and you don't know why.
Right.
You don't know what you did the prior days and it hurts and now and then it doesn't go away.
Right.
For like a week.
Yeah, it's a different type of thing.
And it's like, or to wake up and like one day your energy level is really high or like knocking it out of the park in the workouts, and then the next day you're just dragging.
Right. Yeah,
for no reason whatsoever.
I will say this, coming there, very knowledgeable in how to like, okay, right, this is hurting, let's do it like this, and you can still do it, and then still like that motivating, not like, oh, I'm sorry, little girl, that you feel bad today. It's like, okay, right, let's fix this, and now keep going. Like, nobody cares. Work harder.
Nobody cares. Work harder. But and as well intentioned as a younger trainer or affiliate owner is, again, they're not going to understand. They're not going to have the knowledge base to really work around stuff that they can't identify with.
So
I was a 20-something athlete, so I can train 20-something athletes effectively. I can train somebody who was 50 effectively as well, but it doesn't quite go in the opposite direction.
Well, and plus you just have you've literally decades of experience.
Right.
This was awesome. Thank you so much. I have to get my daughter, I think I told you she goes to the Polytech. But how can people find CrossFit Flemington? Because there's a bunch of CrossFit, so you want to find this one.
Right. CrossFitFlemington.com.
Okay, so that's easy. Super easy.
CrossFitFlemington.com. Not FlemingtonCrossFit.com. CrossFitFlemington.com.
Is there a Flemington CrossFit?
No, there's not.
Oh.
There's not. You just won't find anything.
You just won't find anything. And you're right on King's Court.
We're on King's Court in Flemington.
So across the street from the Chili's, right? Is it the Chili's? Like you turn into the Wawa?
Yeah.
Wawa.
It's like back by Flemington Granite.
Yeah.
And
the Wawa where one morning I'm like, I can't do it. I'm just going to get coffee and go home. I don't have it in me today. But I did. I did have it in me. And then where are you? You're on Instagram. What's your Instagram? Do you know what I'll put it in the show notes too.
CrossFit Flemington.
If any of you guys follow me on Instagram, when I said if you have any questions for somebody who tortures somebody for fun and gets paid for it, I tagged him. Him in it.
It is CrossFit Flemington on Instagram.
Okay, so at CrossFit Flemington. So that's one of the benefits. I have all my social media is just at Cherryville Photography. Right. So a benefit of being in the business a very, very long time is you get all the good handles.
Well, yeah.
Because we made it such a long time ago. So yeah, this is super awesome. I very much appreciate it. Yeah. So the moral of the story is,
I appreciate it.
Nobody cares. Work harder.
Nobody cares. Work harder.
All right. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.